Encounter is brought to you by the Broome County Council of Churches.
Welcome to Encounter. I'm your host, Dave Alexander. Today I have a young lady by the name of Barb Slocum. She's an author, writer, producer, director. And maybe you could share a little bit about yourself first.
All right, I'm a Broome County resident for my entire life. I'm a licensed speech-language pathologist, and I worked at the Shenango Fork Schools for 40 years. And I retired from there in 2009, knowing that I was going to go into private practice as a speech therapist on a part-time basis, which I then did. I gave myself about 6 months to breathe without having to do anything every day, and then I started working for the Broome County Health Department as a therapist. What I do is go into people's homes or into facilities and work with children that have been identified as being in need. Birth to age 5, that's the age group I work with.
Now let me ask a question. Why did you choose speech as a career?
Well, years ago, back in the day, as they say, women were encouraged to be secretaries or teachers or nurses.
Right.
Those were pretty much the choices in the 50s and 60s. But we happened to have a speech therapist at Shenango Forks, which is where I went to school. And I belonged to the Acolyte Club, so I had worked in classrooms a little bit, thinking about that as a profession. And then I noticed Mr. Smith, and I decided I'd like to shadow him and see what that was all about. And I really liked it.
Oh.
I liked working with a smaller group of kids, and it just interested me. And ultimately, that was my final choice.
Okay. Now you get to deal, when you're working at school, all ages, or was it just one particular age group?
For the first 10 years working there, I did the entire district. Okay. And then I had my first child, and they hired someone to replace me for a year. And when I came back, they kept her on because the school was growing at the time.
Right. Had
a lot of kids, and there was plenty of work for both of us.
Now, I guess I can remember going, well, that was a long time, going back to school, but back in the 50s and 60s, really they didn't do anything for speech or for children, and there was a lot of problems, and it's probably a great thing now that this is occurring because you're catching problems and helping young people get their speech language corrected, because without it, you're not going to go any place in this world. So.
That's right. You need to be able to communicate. And the programs I work for are early intervention, that's birth to age 3, and 3 to 5, which is preschool. It's regarded as preschool. And in order to qualify for that program, the youngster has to have a pretty substantial deficit.
Okay.
So it's good that we can get right in there. It's not just working with the youngster, but it's also helping the family figure out things they can do right then and there to help that particular youngster improve.
So it's really, you're involving the whole family in the process then?
Yes, as much as we can, yes.
Okay. Now, on top of all that, you've also are a writer. And you have written a play.
I have.
And what's the name of the play?
The play is called Sandwiched. And it's about a middle-aged woman, and by middle-aged in this particular case, she's in her 60s. Of course, maybe I have to redefine that and say advanced middle age. People don't like to say they're old, so we're going to say she's advanced middle age. And she is caught between needing to help her aging parents, but still is providing help for her adult children, which is a very common theme these days.
Okay. We have a little clip that was done, and maybe we can show that right now. And
Story Jewels presents Sandwiched. In this comedic drama, follow Bonnie, a working divorcee in her 60s who is sandwiched between providing for her adult children while helping her elderly parents and having an independent life of her own. Audiences will laugh and empathize with our characters in this highly anticipated Sandwiched at the EPAC, June 7th through the 9th, 14th and 15th at 8 p.m. Call 785-8903 for ticket information.
Well, that kind of really puts it all together. Now, what was the motivation to write this?
Part of the motivation came from the fact that I had become disconnected from my work as a high school drama director. And I did that for 34 years. And so I had a high level of creativity in my life all of that time. while I was working during the day as a speech therapist, then at night I would be directing the high school drama group. So when I retired, I didn't have that connection anymore, and it didn't take me long to realize they had a big hole in my life where creativity had once existed, and I knew I had to do something, and I just couldn't figure out exactly what that something should be. But finally I came to the decision that I would write. And then I struggled with what I would write about for about 6 months, and decided I would write about this topic because I was experiencing it.
Okay.
Most of my friends were experiencing it, and most of their friends were experiencing it, and I thought this is a very common problem. It's serious, it's substantial in all families, and there's very little written for theater for women who are past 40 or 50 years of age that shows their life and what they go through.
So a lot of this is basically firsthand experience.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Now, I'm assuming there has to be a lot of challenges in what you have just done. Not only did you write it, but now you're the director and the producer. So maybe you can kind of explain. I mean, you kind of told you started writing in November 2012?
Yes, November 29th, 2012 is when I sat down at the computer for the first time.
So now, the creative thought process, I guess, you kind of decided just kind of picking it was going to be a family affair, husband, wife, older parents and young children involved.
Right. I did not have an outline. I did not have one shred of paper with an idea on it. I just started writing from within myself, and originally I thought it was going to be a book, a story.
Okay.
But every time I went back to the computer, I kept writing more dialogue and less expository text, and that continued until I had a couple of readings. I finished the play. I started November 29th, 2012. I finished it July 21st, 2011, so less than a year to finish it the first time. And then talking with friends, I realized I needed to have some readings and hear it so that I would know what I could change and correct, and to get audience reaction. So I had some readings in people's homes, at Orion Beauty and Balance in Binghamton, at No Theater, and the feedback and my listening to the words being spoken helped me understand what I needed to change about it, and it became a much better play because of that.
Okay. So I'm assuming a lot of times you see the TV shows where they depict someone writing the show and the papers are thrown into the garbage can constantly, so maybe you didn't have that experience.
Well, you have the delete button on the computer, and I used that, and I didn't print out for quite a while, and you can go back to any page that you want and make your changes, so I used the delete button.
Okay, now as far as, so you have it written, you had some readings, okay, now you want to decide you're going to produce the show. Okay, you got to find people that are going to be actors. Tell me a little bit about that whole process.
Well, that started in the spring of 2011, 12, and I started meeting the people that I felt I would need to interface with in order to bring this to a successful conclusion. I participated in what's called a TIP group, and it's a group of small business owners that get together once a week to help each other. And in that one group, I found someone Jesse Bush, who has helped me on the computer many, many, many times. I have needed his expertise over and over again. Freshy Sites, which is a local company that builds websites, and they built my website. I met Bonnie Rosen, who works for The Reporter, and I've subsequently advertised in there. I met Ginny Thompson, who is an arm of Binghamton University to support small business owners in this community. And all of these people, Ginny, for example, helped me rethink the way I was going to market this. My original thinking was targeting a demographic of women in a certain age group because that's who's the most affected. But she helped me understand how this was really owned by the whole family, and that I should change my perspective. So all of the people that I interfaced with and talked with over and over again really helped me refine the process and make it better.
Now the people who are actually, we saw in the clip some of the actors, They're not paid, or are, I'm assuming, or are they?
I am paying them. Traditionally, actors are not paid
Okay.
in community
Right.
theater because it costs a lot of money to put a show up. You have to rent space, you have to rent rehearsal space, there's sound, there's tech, and for most community groups, that consumes most
Right.
of your money. And the people who act as community members, they just want a chance to perform and to do something that they love. It's like belonging to a chorus.
Right.
Nobody's paid, but you love to do it, so
Yeah.
you do it. But I decided that this was going to be pretty demanding and that part of my budget was going to go to pay them. Excuse me, and it does. I pay each of the actors.
Okay, now, where do you come up with I got the money? I mean, it's, because you're saying you have to, you're running the theater.
Right.
Not only just to have the show shown, but also you're using it
Rehearsal
for
space.
rehearsal. So,
Yeah.
and you said that's what, you're 4 times a week?
Yes, 4 times a week for 2 months at the Unitarian Universalist congregation. That's
Okay.
the space that I rented
Okay.
because it's kind of in the middle.
Right.
So people do come from Endicott, people come from Shenango Bridge, and it was kind of in the middle. So yes, the money is coming out of my pocket.
Oh, wow.
So every extra penny that I have, it's going into putting this production together. I did receive a grant from the Broome County Arts Council.
Okay.
And that grant of $1,000 is going to help in part to pay for the actors' work.
Okay. So then the admission fees that are on the poster, that's going to actually cover the rental of the theater in Endicott and then hopefully give you some money back to.
Possibly. You know, I'm thinking it'll cost me around $10,000 to do this.
Wow.
And maybe I'll take that much in. I mean, EPAC is running the ticket office, so they take a certain percentage. And we'll see. We'll just see what happens. I did write a grant at the state level, a fellowship grant. The grant potentially could award me $7,000, but I have heard nothing about it yet, so I don't know.
No. So you really put your
Everything
whole
I've
life
got.
and soul into
Yep,
this.
I
and,
did.
So it's something you can tell the enthusiasm you know. And
I
I'm
believe
assuming
in
that
it.
the actors that are there, I mean, just from the clip, there's an enthusiasm with them, and
Yes, there is. They have resonated with the story and are totally committed to it. Not one cross word has been spoken amongst the cast from the very first day to the present moment.
I mean, we were talking a little bit before. Now I recognized from the clip 2 of the actors who just performed in The Death of a Dead Guy, which was performed at Central United Methodist Church. So I mean, here's 2 people who had actually learned all those lines, and now they're
Learning all
they're probably
these.
in the process of doing rehearsals while they were doing that show.
That's right, there was an overlap.
So and that's got to be difficult.
Very demanding.
So it's about, and now you also said you're looking for help as far as sets moving and stuff. Is
Yes,
that-
the crew, we call that the stage crew. And at the Methodist Church, they are gathering a group of people who will be willing to work as a stage crew because there are a lot of set changes.
Okay.
Things have to be moved on and off and props. And they are looking to their youth group as a community service piece
Okay.
to come in and do the work for us.
That's
That'd be
good.
great. That'd
Yeah.
be great.
Now, what about the future? You are, I think, trying to come up with some other things possible?